Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. And in this video, I want to talk to you about why we can often find that dismissive avoidant attachment styles search for perfect compatibility in relationships, and sometimes will flaw find and push their partners or loved ones that they're dating away. This actually came from a question we had from one of our members inside PDS, and I was like, this should also be a YouTube topic. So basically, this is a common theme if you haven't already noticed this, even as the dismissive avoidant yourself or somebody who might have dated dismissive avoidance in the past. And what I often find is that dismissive avoidants are searching for this, they're on this quest of perfect compatibility. And part of this is because there is so much learned helplessness for the dismissive avoidant around working through conflict. So I want you to imagine that you grow up in a household and you don't see a lot of conflict, and you definitely don't see a lot of people working through conflict and it producing positive outcomes or overcoming problems together to create solutions. If you don't see a lot of this, then there's this learned helplessness regarding resolution of conflict and bridging the gap regarding your differences. And so if you think, okay, we have these differences, to the dismissive avoidant mindset, it's often differences equal unresolved conflict. We don't know that conflict can be resolved. So it's differences equals problems. And for a relationship to work, there needs to be as little differences as possible and as much absolute harmony as possible. And things need to be as perfect as possible, because the dismissive avoidance is almost under the subconscious assumption that what shows up is going to be exactly what the long run is, rather than thinking, hey, we're going to have our differences, we're going to have conflicts sometimes. That's part of the human experience. And what we'll be able to do is work through that with healthy conversation and with being transparent and with using conflict resolution and communication skills. And so because there's that lack of that, often DAs are trying to sort of fill that gap. And so what you'll see, this is this subconscious strategy to mitigate the risk of problems. And you'll often see flaw finding with dismissive avoidance, because they're kind of trying to assess out all the risks with a magnifying glass as quickly and as early as possible, because they're saying, oh, this could be a really big pain point long term, and I don't want to invest myself in being vulnerable, which is such a big task for a dismissive avoidant, when the likely outcome is just going to be that this becomes a long-term problem. So you'll see DAs a lot of the time in the dating stage, they're kind of scanning their potential partner for all the different things that could go wrong as a strategy to self-protect, to really consciously and logically decide where I'm going to decide I want it's worth the risk of being vulnerable. And they're trying to sort of risk assess from very early on. And then also their subconscious mind, when they don't want to be vulnerable, will also push away and use flaw finding as a tool to do that. But most importantly, if you believe, whatever flaws you have are going to be the flaws that plague the relationship long term, and that's going to be what it's all about, then you're going to be oh, I see a flaw, and that's not what I want to spend 40 years of my life doing, or dedicated to. And rather than being oh, I see a flaw, so let's call for a conversation. And so because there's that absence, it has this massive impact on DAs yearning for compatibility. If you want to do a deeper dive into healing your attachment style just for a limited time, you actually get to keep for life the attachment styles and sex course. So all about different attachment styles, their patterns around intimacy, their patterns their fears, their wounds, their boundaries, their needs. It really dives into that just as a helpful resource for anything you want to learn about in that area, whether it's about yourself or about somebody that you're in a relationship with. The last thing I want to leave off in this video is that there's this sort of less than optimistic viewpoint as a dismissive avoidant in terms of how they subconsciously view relationships. And then that seeking compatibility is a protective mechanism to trump your own inner fears. And what you can do is, instead of having that be something that creates distance between yourself and a loved one and subconsciously pushes people away from you, you can work through those fears and reprogram them and feel comfortable and safe, still being really good at vetting in relationships and seeing if somebody's a good fit, but not moving from a place of fear and realizing, hey, I can work through things, I can have different conversations, and seeing the beauty of the bonding that takes place and the closeness and the ability to rely on someone and feel you truly can move through things in life together happen because you do that inner work. So anyways, that's it for me for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here.